You are now listening to the Paul McGUIRE Report. This New World Order is secretly, but at the same time simultaneously, right in front of your face. This New World Order is being constructed right in front of you. And this New World Order, the people who are behind it, which are the wealthiest people in the world, the super billionaires, the super trillionaires, the globalist elite that are behind the Great Reset, they have a master plan built on lies regarding the Great Reset. The lie, and their favorite propaganda word that they use in describing the Great Reset is this. When talking of the Great Reset, the globalists always say, you will own absolutely nothing, but you will never be happier in your whole life. First of all, that's a direct contradiction. Second of all, it's a flat-out lie. And third of all, that is the exact same word-for-word lie. That is the exact same propaganda statement, word for word, that the communist revolutionaries used on the people, the Cuban revolutionaries used on the people, the communist Chinese revolutionaries used on the people. It's a lie. It's a lie designed to seduce you, to sucker punch you. If communist revolutionaries believe that they have the right to lie in order to promote their communist revolution, they say by any means necessary. That means by any means necessary is that they have the logistical right to lie through their teeth if it furthers the aims and goals of communism. Now let's look at the lie and examine it, and let's unpack the lie. When they say to you on the college campus, through the media, through a pop star, through whatever useful idiot they use, and by the way, the term useful idiot is not an unkind term from Paul McGUIRE. The term useful idiot was constructed by the famous communist revolutionary leader Lenin, who called the American communists, who were college students, professors, artists, writers, and filmmakers, and so on and so forth. The communist leader Lenin called those naive communist activists, he called them, not me, he called them the useful idiots, that we will use them up because they're so stupid regarding the true nature of communism. And when we're finished with our communist revolution based on lies, then we will kill the useful idiots, or we'll get rid of them and send them to concentration camps. So let's focus in and unpack the lie. First of all, they use this expression all the time, socialists, communists, and Marxists. You will own absolutely nothing, but you'll never be happier in your whole life. That's a flat-out lie. That has never happened in human history. When you look at the dynamics of a communist revolution, you always see that there's the rulers on top who are super wealthy, who have the best houses, best apartments, best cars. They live like kings and queens. The heads of the communist revolutions live like kings and queens. And they own absolutely everything. Now, I need to repeat that for you again, because they're lying to you. They say you, that's me and you, we will own absolutely nothing, but we will never be happier in our whole lives. That's a lie. The truth of the matter is, they will continue, the communist elite, the globalist elite, they will continue to own absolutely everything, because they know from experience that it is only when they own and control absolutely everything that they will be able to be never happier in their whole life. So private ownership, according to the communist leaders, is essential to their happiness. They have no intention ever in giving up all that they own for a communist revolution. So right from the get-go, you have a massive lie embedded in every communist revolution. Now, when they say to you, by lying, you will own absolutely nothing, but you will never be happier in your whole life, if you examine the obscene wealth and power and riches of the globalist elite, of the communist elite, of the Marxist elite, of the Luciferian elite, you always find the same thing. The people who are the heads of the communist revolution, of the Great Reset, of the globalist elite, the people who are at the head of the whole scheme, are always the super wealthy, the super rich. They own absolutely everything. They have multiple mansions. They have palatial houses. They have multiple cars. They own everything they can get their hands on. And their lust for material acquisitions is unprecedented. So they grab everything, take control of everything they possibly can. So it's a whole lie. You will own absolutely nothing, but you'll never be happier in your whole life. Because the truth of the matter is, when you look at their lives, they don't live that way. Let me repeat it again. When you look at the lives of the communist leadership, of the globalist elite leadership, of the Great Reset leadership, when you look at their lives, they own absolutely everything. And they freely admit that they've never been happier in their whole lives because of their status of living like kings and queens. So they're always the super rich, the super capitalists. So you have to discard the total lie of propaganda. And you have to realize that what they say and what is real are two different things. So we discover the truth of the matter, which is this. The entire purpose of a communist, Marxist, socialist revolution is to create billions and billions of people in any given nation who will become your slave labor. The super rich, the super capitalists, the globalist elite, the Great Reset leaders, and so on and so forth, they need an endless supply of free and cheap, dirt cheap labor. The only way they can get the dirt cheap labor is through conquest of any nation through a communist revolution. So the super rich, the super capitalists, the Great Reset people, the globalist elite people, the way they operate is this. They say, the way we can make more money than ever before, the way we can be richer than ever before, is we have to own all the laborers. And then when we own and totally control all the laborers, we can either pay them nothing because they will be our slaves, and slave labor is always the cheapest form of labor there is. So the globalist elite, the Great Reset leaders, they know going into their dirty, dirty deal that they intend to control as slaves billions and billions of workers who will either work for pennies on the dollar, but if the Great Reset leaders can get away with it, what they really want to do is control billions and billions of people as their slaves and pay them absolutely nothing. Because when you make people your slaves through armed tyranny, you don't have to pay them a penny. Slave labor, look at slave labor wages in any communist nation. It's eating rats. It's eating crumbs off the floor, or it's starving to death. When you look at the communist revolutions which occurred in communist Russia, communist China, Cuba, and other nations, you see that hundreds of millions of people died from starvation in all these communist revolutions because the communist managerial style never produced enough food for the common laborer or the common worker. So what this is, you can't be a fool. And we got a lot of fools in college campuses, in the media, a lot of fools in the church. You can't be a fool. You have to have eyes wide open. You have to have a clear vision of what's really happening. Having a communist revolution, or having a Great Reset, or having a globalist elite, or having a Luciferian elite is nothing more than a crafty little scheme. It's a dirty little satanic scheme that gives them cover for controlling all the billions of people through armed force, torture, and slaughter. That's what it is. It's It's an opportunity for the super rich, the capitalist elite, the Luciferian elite, the Great Reset elite. It's an opportunity for them to steal all the labor, all the resources, all the factories, and have them do all their production, all their labor, all their work for free as slaves. The whole thing is a scientific mind control con job where you so brainwash the people that they can't see or think straight. And in that brainwashed state of mind, you con them, you manipulate them psychologically to work like slaves for you, and they'll love it. In fact, Aldous Huxley put it this way in his book exposing all the dynamics of a globalist elite dictatorship, which was entitled Brave New World. And what Aldous Huxley said in Brave New World is that this Brave New World will allow us to create a dictatorship ruled by a scientific elite. And when people are under the control of a dictatorship ruled by a scientific elite, they will be our slaves. They will do all of our slave labor, but they will be so hypnotized, so subjected to mind control, programming, and drugs that they will never be happier in their whole life. They will be high, they will be happy, they will be exhilarated to serve us as slaves. So normally, if people are saying this is an impossible goal, it's just totally impossible. But if you begin to program the people at a young age, if you begin to brainwash the people at a young age, if you begin to MK Ultra them at a young age, then you can so bend their brains and minds that they are exhilarated, they are euphoric about performing their duties as your slaves. And so they will offer up their lives to the service of slave labor for your dictatorship, for your Great Reset, for your New World Order, or whatever the heck you want to call it. Now this, right now, this is where we're putting our finger. This is where we put our finger on the secret agenda of the Great Reset and all the rest, and how to beat it. And how to beat it is all in my book, power from on high. This is not just a spiritual book. It's a spiritual book, but it blows open the doors of your mind so you can see the truth. Jesus and God have a completely different plan for mankind. Jesus' plan for mankind, God's plan for mankind, is that you and I would know the truth, and the truth would set you free. In juxtaposition, Satan's plan for mankind is that they're going to feed you a lie until you believe it. They're going to feed you a lie until you're programmed with the lie. And once you're programmed with the lie, or once you're brainwashed with the lie, you won't know any better. You're going to be under scientific MK Ultra mind control. And that is the game plan of the Great Reset people. They know exactly what they're doing. So when they tell you, right to your face without even blinking, you'll own absolutely nothing, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, but you'll never be happier in your whole life. Think of the face of the Batman in the breakthrough Batman movies, when the Batman is about to con, steal, and kill the middle-class, working-class people in Gotham City. Think of the face of the Batman and think of the face of the Joker. So every time I smirk at you and smile at you and say these words, I want you to immediately think of the face of the Joker in the Batman movie. Just think of the image and the face of the Joker, and then you'll understand everything. I won't have to blab on for another hour. So I'm just going to say something very quickly to you, but I want you to use your imagination and simultaneously think of the face of the Joker as I say these words to you. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. I represent the Great Reset. You're going to own absolutely nothing, but you'll never be happier in your whole life. And then my face disappears and wham, you see the face of the Joker. That's all I need to say. You got it? You got it? Come on, man, you have to have it. It's that simple. In a nanosecond, you can understand what's happening to you. If you were in your right mind, if you were not being subjected to trauma mind control conditioning, where you were scared out of your leotards, if you were not in that altered state of mind, you would be rightfully concerned and rightfully sobered up about the prospect of entering the Great Reset. That would be the equivalent of your parents telling you, hey, Johnny, hey, Susie, me and Daddy are going to send you to vacation camp or summer camp this summer. Isn't that great? Well, Mom and Dad, tell us what's the name of the summer camp. Well, don't worry about that, Johnny and Susie. This summer camp is great. They give you free Kool-Aid. And the main camp counselor, he's really funny. His name is Jim Jones. Why would they send their kids to a summer camp with Kool-Aid and a head counselor whose name is Jim Jones? Isn't something wrong with that picture? Well, don't you think there's something wrong with the picture when somebody's promising you paradise on earth? And by the way, if you continue to read the love language of the Great Reset, they talk a whole lot about you're going to experience heaven on earth. You're going to experience paradise on earth. That's in their language. That's in their mind control language. So when they say to you, and they're starting to say it all, you see it everywhere. You go all over the internet, what do you see? You see shipping cargo containers that only cost $10,000 to $15,000, and that will be a perfect house for you. And you see it over and over again, and they're quite lovely. They've been fixed up. It's a shipping container house. They don't show you how much land you might have around your shipping container house, but they tell you how cheap and pretty this shipping container house is. Do you think it's just a coincidence? Do you think it's just an accident that you're being bombarded with image after image of shipping container houses and simultaneously you're hearing the Great Reset propaganda line? You'll own absolutely nothing, but you'll never be happier in your whole life. And then there's these little promises and illusions to your happiness being directly tied into the virtual reality glasses you're going to wear, because with these virtual reality glasses that they say they're going to give you, but you're going to pay interest on them. These virtual reality headsets that they're going to give you will allow you to take an escape into fantasy world. So you can take some psychedelic drugs. You don't think it's going to happen like this? I'm telling you, I've spent 40 years researching this. I know that I know that I know it's going to happen to you like this. So wake up and smell the coffee. It won't be anything but something like this. You'll get the love language sales pitch, which was the equivalent of getting a sales pitch from hell. I've had some sales pitches from hell. I went to this timeshare presentation where they tell you, oh, it's only going to be 45 minutes. And that of course, is a lie. It becomes 3 hours. And I'm not an easy sale because I want to know whether I'm being lied to or not. So I go into the sales presentation heavily caffeinated. Sorry, but it turns on the dopamine circuits of my brain. I'm in a hyper concentration modality. So I'm listening to them and I'm in a super focused zone. And so they draw me this picture that they're trained to draw. And it's a picture of the money I'll have to spend, the money I'll be saving as the years go by, everything that I'm going to get that's wonderful for me. And because I've been dragging my feet the whole time with my wife, and she thankfully is deferring to me, they're trying to close the deal by offering me, listen to this, they're going to give me money that comes from, when you analyze it, apparently nowhere. So they want to get me to sign the contract as an incentive. They're going to give me money that comes from nowhere, and they're going to put it into the pot. And I don't know, the money it's like something like $150,000 of money that comes from nowhere. Now get that, $150,000. I have to put in my own money that I get from the bank unless I have cash, and they're going to sweeten the pot by $150,000 of money that comes from nowhere. Do you realize that language links very much to how our Federal Reserve System and our monetary system works? Do you realize how that language about money that comes from nowhere fits directly into the whole sales pitch behind the Great Reset? Because I focused in and I began to lovingly and politely question them about this so-called money that comes from nowhere. I said, well, the money obviously can't come from nowhere. So if you're going to sweeten the pot by giving me, and they called it, I don't want to give away the name of their palatial hotel chain, but they used the name of their palatial hotel chain and they called it that money. Okay, but I don't want to give it away for obvious reasons. And let's just call it funny money because that's really what it was. So I said, well, where does this money come from? Well, it's going to come from us. Well, I said, well, where from you is going to come from? And they kept dodging the question. They never could answer the question. And I would be very politely, we'd go in a circle over and over again. We'd go in a circle in which I would be patient, but then I would revisit them with the question, where does this money come from? Politely. Because obviously, if somebody's giving you money that comes from nothing or money that comes from nowhere, if you're not just succumbing to lust for a product and you're really thinking about it, that can't be. And by the way, money that comes from nothing or money that comes from nowhere, as I write about in my book, The Day the Dollar Died, is exactly how the American monetary system works. The American monetary system is based on the creation of artificial Federal Reserve banks, where, listen very carefully, where they print money from nothing and loan the money that they print from nothing to the lower class, the middle class, and to governments and to the U.S. government. And then after they print money from nothing and loan it to you, they charge you interest. So you're going to pay interest on the amount of money that they loan to you. That is what is known as the Federal Reserve System. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. It's really easy to understand. The hardest part about understanding the Federal Reserve System is how blanking simple it is. It's a con. It's a con. It's a con. Well, what can I tell you? You're being conned. So, the sales pitch that this guy and girl give me is now, it's like something out of Alice in Wonderland, is now almost word for word. It's a money from nothing sales pitch. And the sales pitch they're giving me is the exact same wording that the Federal Reserve banking system used in the creation of what's called our Federal Reserve banking system, where they print money from nothing, loan it to us for interest, but they get money from nothing. They got a printing press where they're printing money that has no value. There's no gold. There's nothing to back up the value of the currency. There's just a printing press running. They're printing money from nothing and loaning it to you at interest. So I'm laughing to myself. I said, this can't get more surreal. So finally, I'm getting bored with being lied to. So I said, look, there is no money from nothing that you're loaning me. You have artificially created, with the box you have on your chart, you have artificially created an artificial synthetic pool of money that in reality doesn't exist. So what you're really doing, if you were really to be honest with me, is you're trying to get me to buy into the timeshare by loaning me or giving me money that comes from nothing. But when I look at your chart, I see a box where you say this money is going to come from that you're going to give me if I signed a contract for the timeshare. But as I examine that chart you wrote for me, and the money you said is there, on closer inspection, there's not a penny of money. There's no money in that box whatsoever. In fact, that box by which you said you're going to give me money as an incentive to sign the contract for the timeshare, that box contains nothing but artificial money, funny money, monopoly money, the name of your hotel chain, and then the word money. It's completely artificial money. It's an illusion. There is no money in that box. It's just a game you invented. You decided to play a game, assuming that me and everybody else that comes through the door are total idiots, and you decided to play a game called creating money from nothing. And then, in the same way the Federal Reserve creates money from nothing, you said you're going to loan me the money from nothing to make it an incentive to buy your timeshare. But in reality, you know and I know, actually they didn't know. This was the frightening thing. They were so brainwashed by their own sales pitch that they could not get their minds to cognitively process the fact that they were literally trying to sell me a pile of money that literally did not exist. So I'm not sure that they were trying to steal or con me. I really don't think. I think they were brainwashed. I think that they cognitively could not understand a very simple concept, which is, if you're going to make up money from nothing, which certain organizations do, and then try to give it to somebody for interest, that's called, in ancient Babylonian society, that was called alchemical magic. I need you to pay attention. I don't mean to be condescending. This is where alchemical magic, the teachings of the Rosicrucians, Mystery Babylon, the great harlot Mystery Babylon, this is where they all synergize and they interconnect. This is why the global monetary system, the one world economic system, is based on an occultic system known as Mystery Babylon, where through a process called alchemical magic, they create money out of nothing and then use it to purchase, buy, or loan, or whatever. So these people were trying to give me money from nothing. And I explained to them, because it became apparent to me that this was an internal mental boundary that was insurmountable to them. If I hadn't studied it for years myself, because it used to really dazzle me, if you want to use those words, it used to bedazzle me, because you see, to understand this concept of money from nothing, the solution and the answer and the clarity is so simplistic. What causes people to have their heads spin regarding the concept of money from nothing, what causes people to go into a state of cognitive dissonance when trying to comprehend the concept of money from nothing, this is why it's so hard for people to process it. It's hard for people to process it because in reality it is so ultra simple that we think secretly in our inner minds that there must be something wrong with us, and we defer to the so-called expert, and we think that there must be something wrong with us because we can't grasp what they're telling us is an obvious concept. But it's not obvious. Well, excuse me, it is obvious. It's obvious once you understand and accept the total simplicity of the whole thing. I explain it all in The Day of the Dollar Guide, which is an easy, simple read. You do not have to be an economist to get the message of this book, but you need to read it. You need to understand what it's about. Read The Day the Dollar Died. The reason this book is so powerful, and it is powerful, is because it makes simple something that is really very simple. And I wrote it for people like me, even though I've debated some of the world's biggest hotshot economists on Fox News Network and Fox Business Channel and blah, 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 blah. I'm the last guy in the world you would have ever thought would be having debates with leading economists. Okay, let's move forward. So you got to understand that at the foundational basis of this global system in which we live is the overarching premise and truth that we live in what the ancient occultists, the members of secret occult societies, the Illuminati, Sir Francis Bacon, who was a Rosicrucian, the Freemasons, etc. We live in what can only be described as an occultic system where alchemical magic is performed, and it's only through the process of alchemical magic, which is based on illusion. Alchemical magic allows us to suspend normal economic or natural laws in favor of magical solutions. Now, I know that sounds complicated, but it's not. So remember, in ancient societies, going back to the time of Sir Francis Bacon, who conceived as America being the head of the New World Order in the future, Sir Francis Bacon and other philosophers and scientists, they created a concept called the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is simply a methodology where you take something of little or no value. You take something which is essentially worthless, and then you promise through alchemical magic to convert the worthless substance, like a worthless metal. But you promise through alchemical magic to transform the worthless substance into gold, which has enormous value. So the mythical, magical, alchemical, magical process of transforming a worthless metal into pure gold is alchemical magic. Thus, you have to understand that the basis of our economic system, because we live in the harlot system of ancient Babylon, we have to understand that our entire financial system is also built upon the premise of alchemical magic, where we take dollars that have no intrinsic value. They're not, these dollars are backed up by nothing. But by promising to use alchemical magic upon them, we allegedly transform these dollars into what's called a philosopher's stone, or transmutation, where we take something that is worthless and turn it into something with massive value. So as they intend to spin us multidimensionally into a new world order, now called the Great Reset, it will all be based on alchemical magic. You're listening to the Paul McGuire Report. I'm Paul McGuire. Be sure to visit paulmcguire.us. That's paulmcguire.us. And there's one thing I want to make sure you grasp with me, and that is this. Everything in our economic system, except the Word of God, except truth, is of value based on illusion. Value based on a lie. Remember, it is Satan who is the father of lies. It is Satan who is the father of lies. Satan is the source of the system of illusion, of apostasy. This is a simple truth, but when you fully grasp this truth by the revelation of the Holy Spirit of God, where the Spirit of truth, Jesus Christ and God Himself, He hits you with divine revelation, divine force. And when God hits you with an energy blast of the Spirit of God from heaven, the scales then fall from your eyes, and those who were once blind can now see. That will happen to God's people as we move deeper into the last days, and illusion attempts to reign supreme, and the father of lies attempts to deify himself as God Almighty, when in fact he's a liar. Satan is the father of lies. So this is Paul McGuire. Be sure to visit paulmcguire.us. Ask the Lord what you can do to help us. Ask the Lord what you can do in terms of a contribution, a donation, and whatever God puts on your heart, listen to His voice, His still small voice. Whatever God puts into your heart, do. Obey Him. And then make sure you stand with us in combating the rigging of the internet, and which is also based on alchemical magic. When you manipulate numbers to mean something that they don't really mean, that's a lie. It's rigging, it's stealing. All alchemical magic is based on theft, stealing, and lies. And that's why Satan is ultimately its leader. And finally, we need you to become a prayer warrior for me, our families, everybody involved with this ministry. Make sure you become a prayer warrior with us, and together we can shine the light of Jesus Christ and biblical truth into the land and recapture the land, not through illusion, but through the power of truth and Almighty God. God bless you. This is Paul McGuire, and remember this: Jesus is Lord, and Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. God bless you, Paul McGuire.